Five in the Dugout is sponsored by Woods Basement Systems.
And we are joined by Mike Claiborne. Besides Victor Scott, the biggest story in the spring for the Cardinals, I think, is the performance of the young pitchers. Let's go one by one. First of all, Michael McGreevy today, another solid outing.
Another solid outing for McGreevy, and all the young pitchers who they were looking at being part of this pitching staff have certainly accounted for themselves well. Now, I'll throw another name at you. We saw him last season. Kyle Leahy came in today and pitched 2 innings, gave up a hit, struck out 3 along the way, looked very solid against a very game Met lineup. You have a lot of guys who are still knocking at the door, wanting to have claim as far as either being in the bullpen or the rotation. And while there are names that wouldn't necessarily be household, they're certainly making an impact, Frank, and they're doing it against other teams' starting lineups. This is not a situation where guys are coming in the 7th and the 8th inning and they're facing AA and AAA hitters. They're facing big league hitters, and they're accounting for themselves extremely well.
All right, let's get back to McGreevy. If the 4 guys they're paying and Palante all come through and they're all healthy on opening day, what would you do with McGreevy? Would you start him in Memphis or keep him here out of the bullpen?
Well, when have you ever seen a healthy rotation at the beginning of the season?
Keyword
That's
if.
the first question.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to have an ouchie or a boo-boo or something that's going to preclude them from being part of the opening day roster. Throw in the fact you have so many off days in the month of April, you can't go to a 6-man rotation. So they'll have to really do some roster jockeying in order to make sure they can get people involved in games. But the key is also making sure they continue to build these pitchers up where they can go 70, 80, 90 pitches in the course of April. So there are a lot of things they're going to have to do in order to be creative in order to make this work. But for today, I can't think about what this roster is going to look like on opening day because I think there'll be some changes. Somebody might blow up. Somebody might tweak something. So there are a lot of intangibles that go into play. So what you see on Tuesday is not what you're going to see certainly on opening day on March 27th.
And what is McGreevy doing well?
Keeping the ball down. He's a ground ball machine. He and Palante, you have 2 guys that just throw ground ball after ground ball after ground ball. And then he also has swing and miss stuff. He can get the ball up in the zone, maybe mid-90s when he needs to, but he doesn't have to overpower people. He just locates pitches, and he really frustrates hitters.
What made Palante special today?
Through strikes. 31 pitches, 20 strikes in 3 innings of work. He had to go out to the bullpen and finish it to get to 50 pitches because they wanted to get the other relievers some action this afternoon. But he was as good as I've seen him in a long time, and he was facing a reasonably formidable Mets lineup.
Another mid-20s pitcher, Matthew Liberatore, looked good again today.
Matthew Liberatore just continues to show everyone why Tampa thought he was a #1 pick. And I really don't know what his role is going to be. I know he wants to be a starter. Who doesn't? But when you think about the fact that he's such a valuable guy coming out of the bullpen from the left side, and Frank, his mound presence, his confidence, his motive is more like the fact, I dare you to swing at something I throw at you. He really has a good command of what's going on. He has his pitches under control, and I'm really looking for him to have a very big year.
Tell me about Yordelin Pena, who hit a long ball today.
You know more about him than I do because I was at the other game in Jupiter today. Have not seen a great deal of him, but that's the great thing about split squad games where some of these young guys who are AA guys trying to ascend or single A guys just looking to be recognized, they get an opportunity to play. I didn't see the home run. I'm under the understanding it was a pretty long one. So who knows where he fits in this maze of catching that they have, because you think about the 2 already on the roster. Johnny Crooks is a guy that they really like. Leonardo Bernal is a young man who really started to make some people turn their heads. So the catching line is long. I don't know how deep as far as talent is concerned, but they're all having an opportunity to contribute.
Yeah, Bernard Gilkey told me about Bernal a few years ago. He's really a good-looking catching prospect, isn't he?
He really is, Frank. He did some things today in handling Tink Hence, who had to pitch behind a couple of errors today. And Bernal just seemed like he had the calm and presence, much like we see with Pedro Pages as far as the way he handles pitchers as well. So if he can hit a little bit, and by the way, he's a left-handed hitting catcher, and I don't think we've had a good one since Tim McCarver from that side of the plate. If he can do some things on that front, along with Johnny Crooks, who's a left-handed hitting catcher, so if those guys can show some value from that standpoint, it can really be a plus for the Cardinals, as if the Cardinals need another bat that can swing from the left side.
What about Thomas Saggese, who had a good offensive day? What about his chances of making the squad?
You know what? He's shown some flashes of offense. I just don't know what his position is. I don't know if he has a strong enough arm to play third on a regular basis. And I don't know whether you notice we have some pretty good second basemen, and you just drafted a shortstop who they think they can play second base in J.J. Weatherholt. I'm just not sure where his landing spot is going to be at this point. He's going to have to do some other things, I think, to really force the Cardinals' hand. I really see him as a guy that maybe in case of injury, you may see him, but he's a guy that needs to play on a regular basis, and I'm not sure there's enough playing time in St. Louis as we speak.
And then one final thought again about Palante. Mike, rock solid down the stretch. Do you think he has another level where he becomes elite, or is kind of what you see, what you get is pretty good?
I think he has another level because he's a thinker. He is a guy that makes adjustments on a regular basis about being better from one pitch to the other. And he has really made himself into a formidable pitcher. The way he chews up left-handed hitters is phenomenal. And I think that's one of the reasons what makes him such a special guy, along with the fact that he can produce the ground ball double play as well as anyone we've seen in a Cardinal uniform in quite some time. So I think there's another level for Andre Palante.